Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hi everybody, my name is Prof. Peter Malliaras. I'm an academic from Monash University. Welcome to this Talking Tendons podcast. So this is going to be a brief look at a paper that was recently published in Physical Therapy in Sport, and the lead author is my PhD student, former PhD student, Iman Mirza. She's actually submitted and passed her PhD, and the other authors are Stephen Pearson and Adrian Mallows from the UK. So the title of the paper is The Relationship Between Psychological, Cognitive and Contextual Factors and Rehabilitation Outcomes in Achilles tendinopathy. And it's a prospective feasibility cohort study. So in effect, we're interested in, given the relationship between psychological factors, cognitive, contextual factors, so things like depression, anxiety, fear avoidance, but also things like self-efficacy, outcome expectations and working alliance with outcome. And that's sort of fairly established in musculoskeletal context. We were interested in looking at these factors within an Achilles tendinopathy context. So what we first started with was a feasibility cohort. So feasibility is when you're sort of, wanting to check whether you can recruit people, whether you can retain them in the study, whether you can make sure that you've got all the process in line, whether it's going to work, whether people are going to, help you, stakeholders are going to help you. So all those things you check with a feasibility study. And you'll see from the findings, we're really glad that we did do a feasibility before launching into a bigger study. So we aim to recruit 30 people, and our feasibility was based on doing this with recruitment of 10 per month. So we aim to do it in 3 months. So we ended up engaging physiotherapists via various ways. It was via email, it was via social media, all around Australia to help us with this. And we particularly wanted to know what the response was going to be from physios all around Australia if they were going to help us with recruitment. And this is important because that is really a cohort study like this is reliant on stakeholders like physios referring patients in. So the idea was, if you go and see your physio for an Achilles tendon problem, we would then have some outcome measures at baseline, and then again at 12 weeks and then 6 months. And Adrian Mallows, who's one of the co-authors, has done something very, very similar in the UK. So we wanted to check feasibility in our context. And so we weren't going to disturb what they were doing. And it was interesting because if I go to the results, we did get the 30 people, but it basically took us double the time than what we had planned for. So it took us, 6 months, and we got about 5 people on average per month. And one of the things we learned about feasibility is that we could retain people once they're in the study, but it was really hard to get them, and mainly because if you ask, I think we asked 600 clinics, physios all around Australia, and we had a really poor response. So one of the things that now this is going on to is other work by another PhD student looking at how can we engage physiotherapists in a largely private health setting, which is what most private practice physios are in Australia, to be involved and engaged in research like this. What is going to be a good incentive for them? So that's what we learned, I guess, from this. So it's a big sidestep. We thought we were going to launch into a big cohort study, but now instead what we're going to do is we're going to actually do lots of other work to see how we can engage physiotherapists to really get involved with research and help with projects like this. And I guess it partly is probably seeing the value in them. But from a clinical point of view, because I know mostly clinicians listen to Talking Tendons podcast, we did do a preliminary analysis of the relationship between, and they were just simple correlations between some of these baseline variables like depression, kinesiophobia, self-efficacy, outcome expectation, working alliance, as well as some of the pain outcomes like just pain on a numerical pain rating scale, or we looked at VISA, we looked at GROC, which is just a global rating of change. And there were some correlations at 12 weeks, and they were pretty moderate, it's fair to say. So they weren't really, really strong correlations, but certainly people that were more depressed, more kinesiophobia, they didn't do as well at 12 weeks on those outcomes. People with high self-efficacy did do better. People that expected to do better did better. And people with more working alliance, reporting greater working alliance, did also better as well. So that was only at 12 weeks. The correlations seem to have dropped off at 26 weeks, and there's lots of reasons for that. Possibly our small sample, possibly people who were getting better started not to get so much better, or dropped off with treatment and had recurrences. Possibly some of the other people got better, who knows, but it's such a small sample of 30 people, it's not really going to give us any certainty about those relationships. But from a clinical point of view, at least they're consistent and plausible with what is out there in musculoskeletal literature. So although it's not something you can sort of take to practice tomorrow, I think we all think about and know these days that some of these cognitive, contextual factors and psychological factors are things that we probably should be considering when we're managing people with these conditions. So I guess that is a summary of Aman's paper, which is again published in Physical Therapy in Sport. I'll also try and remember to link Adrian Mello's original cohort study, because he's done an original one, which was, as I say, in the UK context, which also had similar findings for Achilles tendinopathy. Lovely. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.